Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench Sports Show by the fan, for the fan. These shows are some of my favorite because we have a special guest today. Let me first introduce the show creators. We have Mr. Sean Dustin, all things LeBron James, Dallas Cowboy, and then Mr. Pittsburgh Steeler, Michigan Wolverine, Sacramento King, Javon Tavares. My name is Kevin Cornegay, but today we have a special guest. I'm really excited about it. Mr. Keith Moore, Mr. Dallas Cowboy himself, and Houston Rocket. Fellas, what's going on? Say hi to everybody out there.
What's up, fellas? What's up, Facebook?
What's going on, Facebook?
And welcome to the show, Keith.
Yeah, just want to say
Thanks, Sean.
it's a pleasure to have you on, Keith. I know you've been wanting to get on for a while, so it's prime time, baby. It's prime time. The lights are on. Let's go.
All right, so we're on. I was going to start the show today talking LeBron James and his visit to the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. But tonight, the Boston Celtics, the new-look Boston Celtics, they were able to beat the Golden State Warriors. Javon, let me start with you because out of all of us, you were really, really high on the prospects of the Boston Celtics. You loved what they were able to do as far as their wings are concerned, despite the fact that Gordon Hayward was injured. Quickly talk about, do you like where they're at right now? Were you surprised by the victory tonight?
Well, I like where they're at right now. I think you're seeing a team that's finding their footing without Gordon Hayward. Obviously, we saw the gruesome injury there, but I don't think many would have predicted that they would be on a 14-game winning streak right now, beating some top-tier teams in the process. Tonight was particularly impressive because they were able to win a low-scoring game. And so I always like to project to the playoffs. Regular season is one thing, but the playoffs is something different. And the type of game that they played today with the Warriors is reflective of what it could look like in the finals. You're going to have a game in the high 80s, low 90s, and I think I think Boston showed that they could actually defend. Listen, fellas, I've been saying from the very beginning, I like their athletic wings. If you have athletic wings like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, you got athletic wings like that, and I think we even got to throw in the Morris brother as well. When you have athletic wings that can defend multiple positions, they're going to give you a great chance to beat teams like Golden State and Cleveland. So I was very impressed with their victory tonight. Once again, Kyrie, he's been money with the game. He wanted his own team. He's got his own team, and he's been producing. So Kyrie stepped up. They did what they needed to do. But I'm always leery when you have this early regular season success because if it doesn't translate into a deep playoff run, then it really means nothing at the end of the day. But right now, I like their position.
Sean, 14 in a row for Boston. Give me something quick on them. They were able to defeat the defending champs tonight. They match up decently with them.
I'm always extremely impressed with Brad Stevens as a coach, his acumen, his X's and O's, his plays out of bounds, out of the side, coming out of timeouts. And, I think it's impressive coming off of a bad shooting night by a couple of, the marquee matchup, obviously, Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving, both didn't shoot the ball particularly well. And, the gut out, hard-fought game, being down 17 at one point, crawling back, tying the game, and eventually winning the game. Kyrie Irving's clutch free throws down the stretch won the game. But, to me, I'm really high on Jaylen Brown. I saw his competitive nature last year against the Cavs, being real chippy. I see him as being a superstar within 3 years, if not sooner. Tatum off night, Irving off night. But Jaylen Brown showed up big, and Kevin Durant, quick shot with about 14 seconds left, couldn't knock it down. I'm pretty impressed with what they're doing without Gordon Hayward over there in Boston.
Keith, what you think about this new look Boston Celtics team?
I'm gonna echo kind of what these guys just said, man. Young team. I'm impressed with their defense. You don't see young guys come into this league who wants to defend at that type of level, play in, night out. Obviously, Kyrie's there. I call Kyrie Baby Kobe. You know what I'm saying? Tonight, he shot the ball poorly, but in the fourth quarter, he did one thing that most superstars do in this league, is when the shot's not going down, you get to the free throw line, and you get buckets there. You know what I'm saying? The game slows down. Now, what I'm concerned is that when come playoff time, teams may trap Kyrie and force Boston's second-best scorer to become a playmaker. Outside of Kyrie, who on that team can actually score and make plays? I don't know. I like Tatum. I like Brown, two young kids, long athletic. I like Marcus Smart. He could be a little, jittery at times, but Horford, another stretch big guy. Their thing is they won 14 straight, but again, like Sean said earlier, man, it's the regular season. I don't put too much stock in a game like this because I thought Golden State kind of let their foot off the gas a little bit. I think they got bored. Steph was kind of natty nice tonight, in my opinion. Draymond took some bad shots tonight, some dumb plays. I don't think Boston can beat an elite West Coast team in a 7-game series because you need more than just one guy to be that elite scorer for them. But, I do feel like they defend. So, with that being said, they'll be in ball games every night. But come playoff time, can they score enough points? And that I don't know.
Let's go to our next topic here. LeBron James visits the world's most famous arena, New York City, Madison Square Garden. Obviously, before the game, he had a lot of things to say about Phil Jackson. He had a lot of things to say about Dennis Smith Jr., the point guard the Knicks drafted, Frank Ntilikina. And during the game, Enes Kanter, we saw him stick up for his teammate, so on and so forth. LeBron was able to bring the Knicks back. I believe they were down 20. They got the W, and he goes to Instagram and posts that he is the king of New York. I'm starting with Sean because Sean is Mr. LeBron James. Tell me about that game. Also, do you think that players should really be talking about other franchises and the draft moves they're making and the free agent moves they're making, or should that be off limits when you're competing against another squad?
A couple things. I thought it was a pretty poorly played game. The Cavs have been really horrible out of the blocks here. A lot of new players. Obviously, Isaiah Thomas isn't. We haven't seen him yet. Derrick Rose, no surprise there. He's been injured. And they have no commitment on the defensive end. They have no commitment in deep transition. All solid on inbounds passes. It was a really poorly played game until the fourth quarter. I might start agreeing with Jerron and Kevin. Dwayne Wade might be worse, man. Goodness gracious, God. Some nights this guy looks like he's ready to play, and other nights he looks like he's like the 10 man. It's sad to watch sometimes. It was a pretty poorly played game. Obviously, in the fourth quarter, they were able to have a 43-25 fourth quarter where LeBron had 7 points and 8 assists, accounted for at least 23 points there in the fourth quarter. But they got by the skin of their teeth. They barely got past Charlotte and Kemba Walker and Charlotte the night before. In regards to, I feel that players should be talking on other franchises. I don't really have a problem with it outside of the fact I think in this circumstance it's kind of unique because obviously you had the flare up with Phil Jackson referring to LeBron James's business team and his business partners as a posse, almost like they were people that were just kind of hanging on and living off of his fame when they were really, he sent them to school. They're business partners. They've inked huge deals for him. And so he clearly was taking a shot at Phil Jackson. He even clarified, and I thought that was a little bit overblown. I thought Enes Kanter kind of got kind of preemptive in that. He made it very clear he was not throwing any shade at the 19-year-old French rookie. He said he wasn't even thinking about him when he was mentioned in the comment. He's friends with Dennis Smith Jr. He's worked out with him in the off season, and obviously, I think anybody here would say out of the gates, Dennis Smith has played better. He's averaging 14.8 a game, five assists, over 3 rebounds, and Nitalina, I think his name is, averaging 4 points a game, 5 assists, 1 rebound, and you know, I think it was a little bit overblown. Even Frank said, "Hey, it was nothing." This is a quote. It's funny. LBJ is a superstar, best player in the league, so it makes a lot of noise. You know, his friends called him. He said, there's no problem there. And you got to think about the fact that LeBron James is the vice president, unanimously voted vice president of the NBA Players Association. He just helped negotiate the new CBA to avoid a lockout. He works with a lot of these young players and mentors a lot of these young players. He's programmed his support. So he made that's really my case. Much about nothing.
Did we lose Sean?
Not
Keith.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
He's still there. Yep.
Can you guys hear Sean? I lost him.
Yeah, I think he finished with his pick.
Yeah, I heard him.
that was my initial take.
Okay. Look. Okay. Keith.
All right, man. So, you know, I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm a big time NBA guy, and I got NBA League Pass. I did catch the Knicks game versus the Cavaliers. I've actually watched the Cavs play quite a few times this year. Their defense have been nothing but short of pathetic. You know what I'm saying? Starting with LeBron James. You know what I'm saying? Quote unquote Princess James. I feel like if you're King James,
That's a shot.
Just hear me out. If you're King James and you're playing out in the Eastern Conference, there's no reason why your team should be under 500 or even floating around 500. You know, LeBron James alone should be 10 wins by now for that team, you know. But to the game, though, the Knicks played well. You know, they got some young guys there. I thought Porzingis had a bad fourth quarter. They did put LeBron on Porzingis in the fourth quarter, which I credit is where credit's due. He allowed LeBron to push him out towards the three-point line, away from the basket, and just forced the ball out of his hands. And say it again.
He was a poor defender.
KD averaged 35 in the finals, so I mean, he was. But anyways, the next game. In the fourth quarter, I thought that Cal Corver was the key. I mean, he scored 19 points in the fourth quarter. I thought it was more so what the Knicks didn't do compared to what the Cavs did. And as far as trash talk goes with Phil Jackson, listen, man, Carmelo and LeBron's tight. They're boys, along with CP3, you know, Dwayne Wade. LeBron is a class act off the court, man. Listen, he's a stand-up guy off the court. He's on back of his friends. I thought that the way that Phil Jackson treated Carmelo Anthony, LeBron had a right to say something, but you're questioning Phil Jackson. I mean, a guy with, 11 rings, and you have 5 NBA losses? I mean, focus on championships and focus on coming through for your team in the fourth quarter when it counts. So if you ask me, I think Phil Jackson looks at LeBron. I think Phil Jackson looks at LeBron and says, you know what? I coach Kobe. I coach Michael. He's not that guy. He's just not that dude, man. Now, I'm going to call Sean Baby Nick Wright from Fox Sports 1, you know what I'm saying? Because he eats, sleeps LeBron James. Like LeBron is the end-all, be-all. I mean, if you're that great, man, why is your team down by 17 versus the Knicks? And, you know, Madison Square Garden, LeBron says that he's a king of New York. Didn't Kobe drop 61 in the Garden? Didn't MJ drop 55 in the Garden? Yeah, so he's a king of what? You know what I'm saying? Listen, man, he pumps his chest out. He's a great player, no denying that. But there's levels to being great. I just feel like Kobe, MJ, Duncan are just all on a different level. And those guys won't let a team like the Cavaliers right now be 7-8, 8-7 out east. And their excuse is short training camp, new roster, But then our counter would say, okay, Boston had a short training camp. Boston lost Gordon Hayward. They're dealing with like 11 new players. So what's their excuse? They're what, 14 straight games? Listen, man, LeBron has been given passes his whole career. He's 3-5 in the finals. He chokes in the fourth quarter consistently, let alone against Dallas, 2011, the biggest meltdown in NBA history. But but the next game, it was cool. I mean, Cavs won, big deal, whoop-de-whoop. I mean, they're supposed to win the game. I was impressed by that. That's it. Not impressed by it.
Sean, Sean, go ahead and rebut.
I've never heard somebody contradict themselves so many times in such a short period of time. Somebody just said that they put no stake in the regular season, and then he's wondering why they're down so many points in a regular season game. You just said that LeBron James is the reason why they're playing bad and no defense, and he's the same reason.
I didn't say that.
There's a contradictions early from a player, from a fan with a team needing to get out of the Western Conference, needing to get to the Western Conference Finals, whose best players who are picking on females, getting drunk and spending money in the strip club with James Harden. So I'm a little concerned when you're talking who's a stand-up guy.
Tristan Thompson got James Harden. Tristan Thompson is what are you talking about?
There's one guy making money, and then there's another guy sitting down tricking money. That's why I'm kind of concerned. Like, James Harden got a renegotiation of a CBA by the vice president, unanimously voted in the league. James Harden is the same player that disappeared and wasn't even existent in the Oklahoma City Thunder series that LeBron James won. So
Sean,
the same person
that
you're talking about, you're getting the score again. So,
save the Rocket. Save the Rocket talk. We're
Furthermore-
going to get to there. Save the Rocket talk. We're going to get to there.
okay, so
We'll get to there.
getting back to you're talking about a player, LeBron James, that even playing with a Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh in their first season started 9-8 and got to the finals. They lost in the finals to the Dallas Mavericks. However, you're talking about a player that doesn't put a lot of stake in the regular season. You're talking about a player who also reached the longest winning streak in the league they hadn't seen in 20 years. So I don't put a lot of stake in the regular season. I'm sure Cleveland will be farther than the Rockets or James. So I'm not in the regular season. You have a lot of tough guys, a lot of people pump their chest and talk and try to this. And you know, I'd rather the narrow path and admire and then the wide path and empty out their paper.
Javon.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah, what's up?
Just real quick, man.
Wrap it up.
2011. Would you say that was the biggest meltdown ever by a superstar? LeBron versus Dallas?
Yes, I would.
Thank you. Go ahead, Javon.
Javon, let me ask you about give me some trash talk etiquette, because there's a guy on our show that did not like Enes Kanter coming at King James. And I thought he mentioned, maybe he didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, that you have to be a certain caliber of player before you can start talking trash. I want you to talk about that.
Well, first and foremost, I was utterly disappointed to read those words. It wasn't verbal. I read those words, and it was shocking coming from that person who's one of the most competitive people I know. First and foremost, there really is no etiquette for talking trash. For years,
Yes, sir.
for years, coaches have been telling the crash dummy player or the goon on a team or the 12th man, they've been telling him to go into the game and give guys cheap shots, talk a little mess, talk about his mom, to get under his skin. For years, this has been taught by coaches, and it's been embraced by the players themselves. So you don't have to be on a certain level to talk trash to somebody. Bottom line is, if we're out there competing, if we are competing, I don't care what your accolades are. If you're in front of me, I need to defend you, or if it's vice versa, you need to defend me. The accolades go out the window, because much like James Harden, you could have a guy that scores the basketball with great frequency during regular season games, but when it gets tight, now the guy disappears. So if I'm an NBA player, I'm letting James Harden know what he isn't. I'll let him know what he is, but I'll let you know what you aren't either during the last couple minutes of a game. And I would be nowhere near as good as James Harden. So there is no etiquette. When we take a look at that situation with Frank, first and foremost, if you go back and you watch the play, okay, it should have been a delay of game on LeBron James. First and foremost, he has absolutely no reason to go by the Frank kid, Ntilikina. He has no reason to go by him. He stands there while the ball is bouncing. The kid is trying to get the ball. LeBron is there kind of like, yeah, I'm King James, which I have no problem with. I do respect that. But if you didn't have a problem with the kid, what are you doing that for? You're LeBron James. Run back down the floor. So immediately when the kid kind of pushes him off him and says, hey, wait a minute, like what are you doing in my space like this? He defends himself as he should. Then his bigger 6'11" teammate comes over and basically tells LeBron, listen, if you got a problem with him, you got a problem with me. What's up? I'm 6'11". What's up? I don't care what. Enes Kanter has never been the greatest defender. Granted, he got into a spat with Kevin Durant as he was talking trash, right? That rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But I appreciate the fact that he stepped over for his teammate. I don't care whether you're King James. I don't care whether you're Jordan. I don't care whether you're Shaq. He came over to defend his teammate, period, point blank. And he let us know after the game. He said, listen, you can call yourself King James. You can call yourself, Queen James, Princess James, whatever you want to call yourself. But the bottom line is, you're not going to come into my city. You're not going to come into my garden. And I use that term, my city, loosely, by the way, because we know he's from Turkey. But you're not going to come into our home court and punk us. And if you have a problem with that, I just don't know what to tell you. And I absolutely cannot believe that any three of you on this panel would have a problem with that. I don't care what your reputation is. It could be Jesus himself. It could be Buddha himself. If they're on the court and they disrespect your team, have your teammates back. Simple as that. Simple as that.
Sean, I want you to quickly rebut that, because you were the one I was talking about when we got those. So go ahead.
Okay, look. Here's the thing. I have so much respect. You guys are my brothers, man. I love you guys. And I feel so pleasured to be surrounded by the best, smartest analysts in the business. This just isn't you guys a shiny moment. That's all I got to say about it. Number one, I made it very clear in between the lines during the game, there is no rules. I have no problem with any player's competitive fire on the court. I love feisty, chippy players that talk smack, that get in people's face, grab their jersey, bump them around, no respect. I'm that type of player. Any knows, I don't care. I'll elbow you. I'll knock you down. I'm not going to help you up. Might have something to say about it. I want to win mentally, physically, and dominate in every way in the game. I have no problem with that competitive fire. What I do have a problem with, however, is fake tough guys. That's what I have a problem with.
Like LeBron? Like LeBron? The same guy that said he was The same guy that said he was gonna beat Kyrie up, and then when he sees him at the end of the game, they're doing secret handshakes.
That's a shot. That's a shot. That's a
I
shot.
must have it wrong.
I relishes facts. So I'm going to challenge you to show me any quotation of LeBron James saying that. I challenge you to show that, to furnish that evidence.
It didn't
Oh, wait.
It leaked that LeBron was man enough to fight.
Don't tell me about unnamed sources close to the person. I don't want to hear that BS.
Now
Show me a fact. Show me a quote.
Now we actually new. That's what we doing.
Show me a quote and I'll talk about it. I know Keith is big on facts. I don't want to hear speculation. I want to see facts. So going back to fake tough guys, I don't want kickers talking. I don't want bench players talking. Not on the court, off the court. See, Enes Kanter preemptively tried to defend Mr. Frank, and the problem was there was never a shot taken at him. That's the problem. Even when he was on the bench talking smack to KD, let me give you guys some insight. I know Kevin is big on little nuggets and insight about players, Peter Vesey type stuff. Let me give you some insight on Enes Kanter. Enes Kanter started his career with the Utah Jazz, ended up going to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And you know what? He was a big softy. You know how he learned to be competitive? He had to learn to be competitive after he got to the NBA. And you know who he learned it from? Russell Westbrook. I'm going to give you a quote. When they played Utah the first time, after he came to OKC, I'm going to give you a quote. I was shaking everybody's hands, giving hugs, European kisses to everybody. Now I'm just playing. I learned that from us. Here's the problem. You weren't even that competitive when you got in the league. You had to learn that from another player once you got in the league. You're not a tough guy. You're trying to create a facade based on instruction and directive after you got cussed out by a teammate. You are a fake tough guy. I don't want to hear you act like you're hard-nosed. The only hard nose you have is the big physical hard nose that you have. Other than that, you're not a hard-nosed player. You are a career 11-point, 6.8 rebound guy. You know what? Your point guard had more rebounds a game than you. I don't want to hear you talk about being hard-nosed and tough inside. Enes Kanter is not a player that should be talking off the court about any of the superstars, Kevin Durant, LeBron James. On the court, elbow if you got to. Knock them down. Let them know you're there. I like that kind of stuff. But you're not qualified, and you're a fake tough guy.
Here's what we're going to do right now. Keith, I'm going to come to you here in a second. Let me put a bow on this here. Keith, when I come to you, we're going to talk Lonzo Ball, but let me put a bow on this. I love Enes Kanter's competitive fire. I love trash talk. And you know what some of my favorite trash talk is? Some of my favorite trash talk is from the non-superstar who goes toe-to-toe with the greatest players. I love that. There's something about me that loves that. Keith, let's move on to Lonzo Ball, the Los Angeles Lakers point guard, number 2 pick in the draft. Over the last week, he's been benched in the fourth quarter by his head coach, Luke Walton. Talk about that first. And then the second, I want to know how long before we start using the bust word with Lonzo Ball?
I'll be honest, man. I kind of hate to use the word bust right now because we're 15 games in? But you can even ask Javon, man. I've been saying since day one, this kid is a good passer. But other than that, I mean, what else does he bring to the table? I mean, today, man, I was thinking about today. What's the difference between him and Ricky Rubio? They both can't shoot. They're both great passers. But other than that, they don't affect the game one bit. You know what I'm saying? And if you're playing in the Western Conference and you're a point guard, I need you to score at least between 15 and 20 points per game consistently. Drop about 8 to 9 assists per game. And be aggressive. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he took 2 shots versus the Blazers. That's just that's a no-no. You know what I'm saying? But I gotta be fair, man. I don't blame the kid. I blame Magic Johnson, aka Tragic Johnson. I blame him.
Oh, that's a shot.
I blame these. It's true, man. Hey, I blame these delusional sports commentators who come to the league with a narrative, pushing guys. You know what I'm saying? Listen, he's a good player. But I'm like, if you're a GM, did you not see Jason Tatum? Did you not see some of these other guys? I mean, it's clear cut who's better than that guy. Darren Fox. He's all right. It just seems like guys are being drafted now on strictly potential. And, you know what I'm saying? That's the league that we're in right now. Now, he was benched in the fourth quarter versus, was it the Suns, I believe? The Phoenix Suns? That game, he shot the ball poorly, made bad decisions. He's lacking being aggressive. And out west, if you're a point guard in this league, your team needs you to be aggressive. Even if he's missing shots, back it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But to be fair, though, he's a great ball passer. He can see the court very well. He's tall, he's lengthy, but he plays no defense. It's pathetic. Did you guys know that Ricky Rubio right now is shooting a high percentage? Ricky Rubio. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that could be something up for me. But the word best, I'm putting the whole year. Because it's not fair to say he's a bust because he's comfortable on next year. But he's definitely a disappointment, man, to the max. Yeah, for sure.
Wow, that's a Ricky Rubio. That's an impressive comparison. Javon, you are high on Lonzo Ball. Talk about Luke Walton benching him for the fourth quarter. Do you like that, or do you dislike that?
I like any head coach that puts winning above all else. As I've mentioned before, I do not like teams that tank. I don't like teams that don't make a concerted effort at winning basketball games. So for me to criticize what Luke Walton is doing, I think it would be disingenuous on on my behalf. But I appreciate what Luke is doing. It's twofold. Number one, he wants to have the best lineup in the game that's going to give his team a chance to win. And then secondly, he's trying to take some of that burden off of Lonzo. Right now, I think Lonzo mentally is having difficulty with his shot. I think there is some physical ailments with the windup, not the release. If you take a look at his stroke, his shot, he finishes well, but it's the initial windup. I thought Charles Barkley made a really good analysis of his shot. Basically, Lonzo Ball isn't able to pull up from the left side of the court because that's where he winds the ball from. He can only, he can only dribble right and get his shot off that way. He can't go left because he has to bring the ball across his body. So he's effectively taking himself out of the offense on half of the court or half of the half court. So I think right now Luke Walton's doing a great job of not putting him in a situation where he could receive further criticism for him not shooting the ball well. So I appreciate that move from Luke Walton. I will not call the kid a bust at this point. I think when you ask for this microscope, which is what LeVar Ball has done, when you put that microscope on your son, everything he does is going to be criticized or it's going to be praised threefold. So now we're in the criticism phase. The kid isn't shooting the ball well. We've all been there. Kev, you know as a shooter. Keith, you know as a shooter. I know as a shooter. And that's no disrespect to Sean. He's a bruiser. He's a bruiser down low. He's baby Barkley right there. But we know as shooters, there's times when you don't have any confidence. You don't have any confidence that you can make the next shot. And I don't care how much repetition, I don't care how much you work on muscle memory. If mentally you don't think you can make the shot, you're not going to make the shot. And so that's where Lonzo is right now. I think it's starting to affect other parts of his game as well. Really, I expected him to come into the league. I expected him to get out in transition. I expected him to be a playmaker for his teammates. And he's doing some of that. But I think because of the the lack of shooting the ball successfully, I think it's gotten into his head. So I do like the move that Luke Walton did by sitting the kid down. Hey, maybe he'll get it together and he'll play better, and then he'll start to get those minutes late in the fourth quarter. But I think before it's all said and done, as I mentioned last week, he has certain gifts that you just can't teach. He has that visualization. He makes his teammates better when he's on the floor, and he's a great passer. That can take you a long way. Not to mention he's 6'6". He'll put on some weight. He'll rebound the ball well for a point guard, and I think eventually he'll get his assist up to beyond 10 assists. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
Sean, I follow Magic Johnson. I follow his Twitter page, and he tweeted out he was excited. Lonzo had a triple-double the other night. But I said to myself, why is Magic Johnson tweeting this out? I mean, he was super excited about the triple-double. He's tweeting this out as if he won a championship. Sean, give me your thoughts on the Lonzo Ball benching. How long do we have before that B word comes into play?
Well, I'm going to say this first and foremost. Magic Johnson is a ruthless promoter. And the thing is, he didn't get to where he's at post-basketball by not being able to create hype and garnish attention around his business moves. And he understood as a competitor and as a basketball player Lonzo Ball's deficiencies. However, he knew Lonzo Ball was going to put butts in seats. He knew that they needed something in the Lakers organization that was going to garnish some sort of attention, because the lure of championship history the Lakers have, the way they could just continue to not even be a factor in the second most popular team in the city. So that's for business by Magic Johnson. As far as Lonzo Ball's, play, you're talking about a guy who's shooting 30% from the floor, 23% point range, and 50% from the free throw. The second worst shooting percentage through more era. This is like for any pick, let alone a second pick. It's way too early to call him a bust. It's odd to me because I know John Tavares is really high on the skills of LeVar Ball. I say that he created skill because he speaks so highly of his parenting skills and he's really high on LeVar Ball. Now he's anything wrong. He should have brought him along anyway. But you don't get this type of playing time. He's not at the level or has the feel for the game of a Ben Simmons, of a De'Aaron Fox, of a Jason Tatum, or any of these rookies that are really, standouts immediately in the NBA. He's in a point guard league. He's not a scorer. He is a great facilitator. He's fast in transition. He's tall. He can see the court very well. And I think he's going to be a way above average point guard. I mean, in his rookie year, he's averaging almost 7 rebounds, 7 assists a game. That's not something you see every day from a point guard coming into the league. Way too early to call him a bust, but he's a horrible shooter. He's going to have to work on his mechanics in the offseason. And he overtly said that his poor shooting performance is starting to affect other parts of his game, and it's not something that normally happens. You know why it doesn't normally happen? Because you weren't normally in the NBA. Because you weren't normally facing competition at this level. You weren't playing against elite point guards and grown men and people that were going to push you around. You have a target on your back created by your father. I'm not blaming Lonzo Ball for the hype. Because he's really a pretty quiet, humble person if you listen to him talk. I need less rap records. I need less raps. I need less criticism of hip hop legends, and I need more basketball. Finito. Can y'all hear me? Or
No, I can hear you. Kev, can you hear us?
Oh, hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
yeah,
we
I can.
Okay, yeah, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna flip this to Javon. He's gonna put a bow on it. Then I'm gonna come to Keith, and he's gonna open up our next segment about the Cowboys. But Javon, let me ask you really quickly: did LeVar Ball force the Lakers to draft his son Lonzo Ball?
No, I don't think he forced the Lakers to draft his son. I think Sean very eloquently stated it earlier that Magic Johnson, he has a flair for the dramatic. Okay, if you ever saw the piece on Magic and Bird, Irvin Johnson and Magic Johnson are two different people. And Magic Johnson is a businessman. Magic Johnson, I'm not gonna call him tragic, Keith. Stop it. It's disrespectful. Magic with an M. Magic. Magic has a flair for the dramatic. He understands what it takes to run good business, and he understands what's going to create excitement. Listen, we all know that Lonzo Ball is from the LA area. He's from Chino Hills. He went to UCLA, and there was a hype around him, largely due to his father. There was a hype around him that Magic could benefit from. So I don't think that Lonzo or that LeVar forced Magic to draft his son. I think that he helped contribute to building that hype machine for Lonzo to be drafted by the Lakers. But ultimately, Magic Johnson has to be culpable for the moves that he makes with the Lakers. This is a guy that said, hey, I want to call the shots. So now that he's calling shots, he needs to make the right moves. And if he doesn't make the right moves, then he's going to be held accountable for that. So I think, in all earnest, Magic Johnson feels like Lonzo Ball can be a great point guard.
Shout out to Scott Brown on the chat. He says that Lonzo, he's a rookie. He needs time. His father made it sound like he was the next Kobe Bryant. He will
Absolutely.
be good eventually. Keith, Cowboys. I hear you're a big Cowboys fan. We know Sean Dustin is. Let me ask you a couple of questions about the Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott will serve the 6-game suspension, the star running back for your Cowboys. And Jerry Jones has gotten himself into some litigation. I guess he's either being sued or he's suing, something like that, challenging the NFL. It reminds me of Al Davis. I remember back in those days, Al Davis would always have a lawsuit against the NFL. He was the renegade. He was the renegade owner. And it seems like Jerry Jones is starting to go down that path. Let me specifically ask you, Keith, about Ezekiel Elliott. Do you think he should have just taken the suspension at the beginning of the season, or did you like that he actually fought it?
I'll be honest, man. It's a touchy subject for me because when a guy's accused of something like that, if he would just took the suspension, then I mean, isn't he saying that he's basically guilty by association? I mean, the court of public opinion. I mean, if somebody accuses you of, abusing a woman, I mean, aren't you going to fight that? I mean, now looking back on it, schedule-wise, yeah, sure. I mean, it probably was best that he took those games, the first 6 games of the season, because now the Cowboys are kind of in a tight spot because the schedule gets a little tougher. But I don't blame him, man, because that's a topic where I think his character was on the line, and I mean, if it was me, then I probably would do the same thing.
Keith, can I make the playoffs right now?
No, not with that defense. And what's funny is their defense is ranked number 15th in total defense. But don't let that fool you, man. We have one of the most pathetic secondaries in the NFL. And I say that laughing because if you watch them play, they make plays, they play hard, but any decent passing quarterback, that defense can be had. I mean, you saw it last year versus the Packers with Aaron Rodgers. You saw it this year with Matt Ryan. Any decent quarterback, man, can drop back and get some protection. will eat those guys alive. I can't stand Skandrick. I don't like Brown. Those guys run around as if they're that guy, that dude, pumping their chests out. They look like they're in no man's land. No, stop it, Sean. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm being real right now. The Patriots have a pretty damn good offense, but their defense is pathetic. I do like Lawrence when he gets pressure on the quarterback, which is not so often in these past couple weeks. But, man, no. I thought they might make the wild card at first, but no, without Zeke. And teams are going to now start to drop back 6 or 7 guys, force Dak to be a passer. And Dak has been a little off these couple weeks, man. Ball's been high. Ball's been kind of out of rhythm. Des Bryant can't get off tight coverage. Wynn's getting older. And McFadden, those guys, man, they're just not Zeke. So to answer your question, no. And that's just me being real. I know Sean's waving his finger for it, but he's being delusional and being in denial once again. The Cowboys are decent, but they're not a playoff team. Go ahead, man.
Sean, let me ask you now, before the season, I thought that the Cowboys would be at Green Bay for the NFC Championship game. I thought that your Cowboys were a serious Super Bowl contender. It looks like right now they're really leaking oil. Do you think they can still make a playoff run right now?
Address Keith first. We're supposed to be on the same team here when it comes to Cowboys. I'm pretty yes, I'm delusional. Here's where your mistake was. You said you have to get a great quarterback for the Cowboys to be had. No, you don't. You could be Trevor Siemian and carve the Cowboys defense right now. That's where you were wrong. You don't have to be great at all to carve up our secondary. You can't get a pass rush. 7 seconds to pass. You can carve up any defense. Outside of you have no pass rush. Taco Charles should be eating tacos. He ain't doing nothing on the defensive end. That's the problem. So, Cowboys right now, I'm more ashamed of the front office than I'm ashamed of anything else. But with that being said, going back to Ezekiel Elliott, I'm going out swinging. I'm not bowing down right now, and I'm not bowing down early. I know that this person is full of BS. The NFL investigator who happened to be a woman thinks this person's full of BS. If the district attorney thinks this person's full of BS, I'm not serving this. I'm not going down now, bowing down, and I'm not going down then. My professional reputation and as an individual and my integrity is more important than football. I'm a person before I'm a football player. I'm going to be a person after I finish playing football. And you're not going to sit here and accuse me of something. Person's shady, fraudulent, and known to be changing their stories and fluctuating. I'm not taking it now. I'm not taking it in. I'm telling my agent, hey, let's take it down. And you fought too hard to overcome all these things. You have to support. Now, like he said, very, very, you're talking about violence. You're talking about issues. And
Javon.
Yes.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you this quick question about college football, and then we're going to end the show talking about Keith Moore's Houston Rockets. We'll get takes from all three of you. But let me ask you this quick question, Javon, about I got a quick college football question. Notre Dame went down to Miami and lost 41-8. I just want to ask you, is the U back, or do they have to start winning championships before we can declare them back on the college football scene?
Oh no, the U is back. The U is back. I'm a firm believer that you don't need to win championships in order to be back. If you take a look at Miami's last 4, 5, 6 recruiting classes, they always finish in the top 15 of recruiting. Florida is such a talent-rich state when it comes to high school football that Miami is always going to get some athletes. They're always going to get athletes. They don't have to leave the state of Florida. The problem is that they haven't had a head coach ever since Larry Coker, who actually was under Butch Jones or Butch Davis. They haven't had a great head coach since those times. So when they made that move to bring back one Mark Richt, now listen, we all know the struggles that Mark Richt had at Georgia. He got to a couple SEC championship games, could never beat Alabama. But Mark Richt had economic success in Georgia, but it wasn't enough for the Bulldogs. Now he's back home at his alma mater at the U, and guess what? Those same athletes that they had before that weren't necessarily coached up the right way, they were just running fast to the wrong spots. Now this team is running spot. They got the turnover chain, which is a great incentive to get a turnover. They had 4 turnovers against Notre Dame. It was a great scene. It was a national spectacle, and it really was a platform for them to voice the fact that they are back. Now, ultimately, they'll have a chance to prove themselves against the reigning champion, against the Clemson Tigers. All the chips will be on the line in the ACC championship for a spot in the college football playoff. Can the Canes do it? I'm not quite sure. But I tell you what, they definitely have the talent, and I only see them getting better under Mark Richt. So to answer your question, the U is back.
I do like Clemson by 3 in a very close, hotly contested game in Charlotte for the ACC championship. I think Mark Richt is maybe one recruiting class away from really being a national championship contender. So probably one more away so they can have that depth, but they looked really good. Let's get to our last topic. This is it, fellas.
Yeah, quickly, before we transition into that last topic, I'm going to throw this out there right now. Clemson has a trap game. They have a trap game against their Will Muschamp has had a pretty decent season with the South Carolina Gamecocks. That game could be tougher than most are expecting. To watch out for the game.
That's a good call. Good call, Javon. Hey, Keith, man, we've enjoyed you on this show. We're going to end the show talking about your Houston Rockets. Now, I know they're playing right now against Phoenix. Before we started the show, they were up 10. Quickly give me a synopsis. How far do you think that your Rockets can go with the acquisition of a Chris Paul in the backcourt with James Harden, man? You think you can get to at least a Western Conference Finals? Where do you think they'll end up when you get to the playoffs? What seed?
Well, first and foremost, man, tonight Houston had 90 points in the first half. James Harden had 33 of those points in the first half.
Wow.
He's a clear-cut MVP candidate firsthand right now. He should be MVP as of today. But to answer your question, outside of Golden State, I feel that Houston is probably, man, the second best team overall in the NBA. Overall, they got defense now with PJ Tucker, Mabute. You got Chris there. You got the most improved player, Clint Capella, averaging like 13 and 10. You got Harden leading the league in scoring and assists. So, I mean, yeah. And Kevin, real quick too, man. The Rockets made the conference finals 2 years ago with a much lesser roster. With no Patrick Beverly, no Demo. They lost to Golden State in 5 games. They beat the Clippers in 7 games. So you ask me, can this team compete and get to the finals? Of course they can. My question is this, and then I'll pass it to Sean. What's going to be this year's excuse why Harden won't win MVP this year? Because last year the NBA picked Westbrook as their darling. The year before that they picked Steph Curry, even though he played with Clay, Draymond, those guys. But James Harden has been probably the definition of MVP the last 2 or 3 years. So my question is, this year, what's going to be their excuse this year why he won't win it? I can see already that they're trying to push Giannis in Milwaukee to be MVP. He's out east with a subpar record, but I heard people on TV like Paul Pierce, Chauncey, they're pushing for Giannis to win MVP already this year. I'm like, he's out east with a subpar record. Houston can score. They're 15th in defense. They're a good team, man. They're a good team. Can they beat the Warriors? No, because they don't defend good enough when it counts. But a season team, oh yeah, they're definitely a top 2 team overall. And also too, real quick too, last year they were 3rd last year overall behind the Spurs and Warriors. They had a better record last year than the Cavaliers did last year. So my question is to Sean, outside of Golden State, who's better than Houston? Honestly,
Take that.
Well, right now, I mean, I think 50 games in, I think it's premature to say anybody's the best team in the NBA. I mean, even the Golden State Warriors, as any loss right now, as it them to have maybe like 3-4 in so I think they're trying to figure it out. They're figuring out rotations. They're figuring out who's not going to play. They're trying to get players to get. I think it's best. Going to be the excuse. I remember this. Was dominant player. He won one MVP. One thing that I noticed in the Evan, as soon as you see him play, that, he's not. And the hardest. So I think, James Harden overall is a great player. I think the Houston Rockets are a formidable team. But I don't see them making the conference finals. So with that said, who I think is be a little bit more.
Javon. Yeah, Javon, give me a quick take on those Houston Rockets. They look really good. They look like they're defending a little bit better too.
Listen, let me throw this out there really quickly. Your immune system. What are these things designed to do? They're designed to defend. They're designed to defend against things that could hurt the or things that could hurt your body. Your immune system is designed to defend and ward off those things that invade your body. The Houston Rockets don't have an immune system. They don't have an ozone layer. They have no defense. They have no whatsoever. And it starts at the top.
What? My God!
We could talk about a wonderful offensive team all we want. James Harden is a fabulous scorer of the basketball. James Harden could have won MVP last year. For all I know, he may win MVP this year. But the bottom line is this. The regular season means absolutely nothing to me when it comes to the Houston Rockets. This is the team that has no ozone layer. They don't have an immune system. They won't be able to defend in the playoffs. And it starts at the top with Mike D'Antoni. I'm sorry. These are the facts. These are facts. James Harden, because you mentioned when they got to the Western Conference Finals against Golden State a couple years back. But what you didn't mention is that James Harden, again, choked in that series. He had an opportunity to get a victory on the road in Golden State. Okay, all he had to do was take his patented step-back jumper. Instead, he allowed himself to be trapped by Curry, by Thompson. Yeah, he allowed himself to be trapped, and he got ripped. Game over. So, and then when we go back further to OKC, he just didn't show up in the finals against Miami Heat.
Was that our?
Jamal, you funny, man. Hey, Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Hey, quick, man. I mentioned the Houston Rockets defense. Do the Thunder defend well? I mean, they do stat-wise, but does Carmelo defend? Does Westbrook defend?
Indeed. They defend better than the Rockets.
No, he does not play defense. Westbrook plays no defense. Sorry, stop it. None. Zero.
He's a better defender than James Harden, believe it or not.
Who?
Oh, my God.
We weren't able to. We ran out of time. We weren't able to get into OKC.
The Kings.
Huh?
They lost the Kings.
The Kings, yeah. We out of time, y'all. We weren't able to get into the OKC Thunder, but I want to thank Keith Moore for coming on the show, man. Brilliant job.
Thank you.
Normally we do this after most shows. We put somebody on the bench, so I'm going to quickly do that. Notre Dame football. Brian Kelly. I always enjoy watching Notre Dame get the brakes beat off of them. When are they going to return amongst the nation's elite? Every time they get into a big-time ball game, they get the brakes beat off of them. Alabama destroyed them in a national championship game, and over the weekend, the U destroyed them. What is the overall theme when we see these games? It's speed. And I question, will Brian Kelly ever be able to recruit enough speed to South Bend, Indiana? Because if he is not able to do so, Notre Dame will never get back to the top of college football. Thanks, everybody, for joining the show tonight. Big thanks to Keith Moore, Sean Dustin, Javon Tavares. We're signing off the bench. We'll be back with you guys next week. You guys be blessed.